All right, guys, this is Kyle. Today we're going to talk about purchasing power parity, okay? That just means how strong your dollar is, how strong your $100 is compared to, well, everything globally, right? This is extremely relevant, especially not if so much if you're buying commodities, like if you're buying food at the grocery store. Well, actually, it still is because you're competing against other people. But generally, this is more important if you're buying rare assets. So if you're any type of real estate, any type of capital, if you want to travel, anything that's competitive, it's going to be a trouble if you have low purchasing power parity. So, best example here, you guys know about the passport bro strategy. For example, somebody making $5,000 in Toronto is pretty broke, but if you go to Latin America, if you go to Thailand, you're basically living like a king because you have much more purchasing power parity. Okay, your rent is going to be extremely low. You can buy a rent basically like a 3-bedroom in Thailand for like $900. Food is going to be much slower, etc., etc. This is really important if you want to get power and independence. So if we look here in terms of the past 5 years, right, this is how all the major currencies have fallen compared to the US dollar in the past 5 years. I feel like this should be higher, but let's say 6% here. So if you have $10,000, it's been devalued by $600 just by living, okay? Not this is not even counting inflation, okay? This is just the purchasing power between the USD. So the Americans can buy 6% more than you. If you're British, 14%. If you're in Europe, you're absolutely destroyed here. You've lost 24% of your global purchasing power. Europe is actually in a very bad position right now. They can't really compete on anything. Their energy costs, their electricity costs is super huge, which, in a world dominated by AI and robotics, it's going to be a big problem for them. They're not competitive in AI. So if you're European, I would strongly recommend you invest into the next thing that I'm going to talk about later. Same thing, Russians. If you're the average Russian person, you lost all your money. If you're Japanese too, if you're Turkish, like it's game over. You imagine you can't travel, dude. If you have $10,000 in Turkish, like it dropped by $9,000. Okay, so these guys are stuck in their economy. I think that the government's subsidizing their food and stuff, but it's looking very, very bad. So okay, look at Bitcoin here. Okay, Bitcoin has grown over 900% over the past 5 years, and I do believe that over the next 5 years, so until April 2030, it's going to grow even more. Probably more than 900%, okay? This is because of the global trade war. You see how I'm actually going to do some little drawing here. Okay, if you look at here, we have the euro. Okay, this is the euro. We have the Canadian dollar. We have the US dollar. It's put in black because they're very serious. Okay. And you have something called it's called DeFi, okay? DeFi is decentralized finance, okay? Because you can think of this as little islands, okay? Almost like monopoly dollars. This is all printed by their central banks, okay? Americans have a huge advantage because they're the global reserve currency. Us Canadians and the Europeans don't have that advantage. Basically, it's just monopoly money that's used in the different jurisdiction. But DeFi is just going to get bigger and bigger because it's a global asset, right? It's not generated by the government, and in fact, it's actually now directly backed by these guys. Okay, these guys are really invested in DeFi. They're really invested in Bitcoin. They're really invested in stable coins. So now the institutions are getting in. I think this number is going to skyrocket, guys. It's going to probably be something like 2,200. If I had to guess, just random number over the next 5 years, by April 2030, it's going to grow by that much because it's a global asset. Even the rich, right? The rich like to do capital preservation, right? They like to keep their money, they like to keep their power, they like to keep their freedom. So they're all going to go into this, okay? Especially the boomers, okay? They want to stay rich. They're going to have people that kind of like, magic accountants, magic accounting, okay? They're going to figure this out, hide it in here, so it's going to boost the valuation, okay? If we go to Coinbase or CoinMarketCap here, global market cap 2.37 trillion. By 2030, dude, this is going to easily be 10, 15, 20, 30 trillion. Like, there's no fucking way, dude. No way, okay? No way that it's not, okay? It's hard to say when it is, but I do believe that by end of year, we're going to see something like a 250K Bitcoin, just because global trade war, all these things will become more and more useless, more and more isolated. But this going to become the big pie, okay? So if you're a man and woman, okay, you're going to work for the next 5 years. So you're going to have 5 years of labor, of capital that you've storing up in any asset. Probably smart to put it in here, because if you're in here, okay, it's already dropped 24% compared to the Americans, maybe more by the time, okay? So basically your hard-earned money, your life force is going to be drained, but if it's in here, it's going to grow, and you become a very rich person just by being on top of the edge, Unfortunately, the average person doesn't have time to really educate themselves and to understand this thing, but hopefully you do, and you have a competitive advantage over the rest of the market, and then you can use that that power and influence to hopefully, help your community, help your family, help the world, and then eventually we'll figure it out. But I don't think we're going to figure it out in the next 5 years. It's going to be still hard. It's going to be a little bit of a hell, but I think we're going to make it. So good luck, guys, and yeah, stay powerful.